Hello, everybody. How are you? We're ready for our book club discussion of the League of Lusty Ladies book club, where we're going to talk about some historical romance and some paranormal romance today. I am joined today by the wonderful, lovely Jen from Books Gen Rex. So
Hi.
make sure that you guys go and follow her Substack. So it's booksgenrex.substack.com. And always she's here to share lovely recommendations with us. She's also a guest reviewer and under the covers and shares all her lovely recommendations. So actually, I wanted to jump on before we talk about the books. What have you been reading?
Oh gosh, I have been all over the place mood reading recently. Lots of paranormal romance, which is pretty standard for me. Some fantasy. Um, of course, I'm completely drawing a blank on all of the titles that I've read recently, but yeah, it's February was actually a really good reading month for me, so I'm kind of trying to continue that momentum
Yeah.
and just as soon as I finish one, I'm picking up the next one. So,
Yeah. That's good. Actually, that's kind of February was the same for me too. I read more in February than in January, which is weird because it's a shorter month, but I was just like picking up and going. So worked out well. So one
yeah.
thing that I read recently that I actually really enjoyed came out in February. It's Whirlwind by Kayla Gross. And living in Florida, I do see a lot of like the storm chasers, and they're
Mm.
never cute. So this book is about this professor who's also a storm chaser, and the heroine is his student. So, it's a age gap, whatever, romance. And I'm like, that doesn't seem like it would be the idea of like this really hot romance, but the
Yeah,
intensity,
yeah.
they're chasing a tornado, things happen.
There's tension there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I know that you recently also read the audiobook for the Gina Showalter, which that's on my TBR.
Yes, I'm so excited. I'm getting an arc of the next one in that series soon. That's coming out. They're sending that out here soon. So I read the first one as an arc and I wanted to do the audiobook as well just to kind of remind myself everything that happened. But that it's been the Kings of Fury series has been really good so far. So
Yeah, yeah. What kind of supernatural creature is it about?
Berserkers.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
I have
So
that on my TBR, I'm excited.
you got the big broody protector. So yeah.
Yeah, love that, love that. So, we read both books, so there was a bonus novella and there was the regular book club, and we've read both of them, so I'm gonna I'm gonna put up the cover so we remind ourselves. The main book club was In Scandal with the Duke, and I'm just gonna go over a quick little overview that I have over here of what the book was about. So, In Scandal with the Duke is about Elizabeth Armstrong. She's an American heiress, and she's done with all the fortune hunter suitors, and she just wants to have a good time in London, even though her mom has different plans for her. And she wants to go back to New York and work for her father, basically. So she wants nothing to do with marriage. And then she meets James, the Duke of Basil, who has his own set of rules and problems. And yes. And of course, sparks are flying immediately, and they get on this like no strings affair. Gets a little messy from there, and then she's not really looking to settle down, which we'll get into that, but I thought that was really, I really love that part. And then James also doesn't really want to get married, but he's always used to like women coming on to him and trying to trap him. But he's also her older brother's kind of, I'm not going to say best friend, but friend. And so basically, they have this really spicy historical romance. So, what were your thoughts on, kind of like the premise of the story and, kind of overall thoughts and feelings on it? And what about first impressions of the characters?
I love this as a historical romance. Just the fact that it wasn't slow burn in the slightest.
No.
It was like 30% in and, they're doing stuff out in the bushes. Like, you don't normally get that in the historical romances I'm used to.
Yes.
So that as soon as I got to that part, I could not put the book. I was up way past my bedtime trying to plow through this because I just could not put this story down. I think I got to about 80% before I actually put it down because I was
Nice.
just so into it. And like 80% was about where her mom and her aunt kind of messed things up a little bit for
Yeah.
them. And then I was like, okay, now I can put this down. Now we're getting a little frustrating.
Yes.
But up until that point, I was like, wow, this is like wham bam, just like right there. Loved these characters, loved the whole premise. I love that, it's not uncommon in historical romance, especially current historical romance, to, have the leading lady not be looking to settle down. But I think she was just so different from the characters I'm used to reading, personality wise, that I loved it. And I was there 100% for it just the whole time.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you just said, especially the fact that, it's not just that she like didn't want to settle down, but she was so into the fact that she had desires and she wanted to act on it.
Yeah.
And it was almost like not that she was using him, but she was very confident in what she wanted to do. And she's like, no, I don't need to trap you and I don't need to do XYZ. I'm just having a good time. It's what I want to do. And then what I'm going to do after is go back home.
Yeah, yeah,
The rest is your problem. I love
yeah,
that. I love
yeah.
how independent she was.
Yeah, very much. I mean, she was very much a good foil for James, and just the
Mhm.
way, we're used to seeing like the guys go off and, visit like the pleasure houses and stuff,
Yeah.
but you usually don't see that kind of mentality in the female character, and so I just loved that about her.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And on the other hand, I also really liked how James he was a little bit jaded from past experiences, from everything that, he was used to from the ladies of the time. And I think having a character that, she's American, she's got different customs, and she was not into like all the, you know, pump and circumstance of what he was used to. I think it was like just what he needed,
Yeah.
to like put a little bit of the guard down, which I really thought was really interesting. So they had like a really great chemistry with that, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
So what about tropes? Do you think that there was anything that was a little bit too much, you didn't like?
I think the only thing that I didn't 100% go for, was kinda like the meddling relatives, because that kind of just like, I would've been completely fine without that happening. I was like 80% in, and I'm like, "Oh, well, maybe we're not gonna have any big drama. Maybe this is just a good, happy, carefree story." And then we got that drama, and I'm like, "Just get your mom and aunt out of the picture. Just
Yes.
don't
Oh
don't
my
let
god.
them please don't let them ruin this for you. Like, you guys were doing so good. We saw where he was going, and then they stepped in and kinda, you know, tried to force everything and just made it all fall apart. And
Yeah.
so if we could get rid of like the whole meddling relatives, I think other than that, I loved everything. I
Yeah.
loved all the tropes that went on in this one.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, even getting into some of the spicier tropes, it had
Yeah.
quite a bit of, a variety of things, especially that she was
Yeah.
willing to experience and explore.
Oh
So
yeah.
that was interesting. I was totally not expecting this, by the way, because I have read Stacy Reid before, but I have read stuff that she has published like through a publisher. So I feel like maybe this because was indie published, she was like able to free herself a little bit
Yeah,
more.
I was very pleasantly surprised at how much we got
Yeah,
and how quickly we got it, because that's
yeah.
just I'm not used to that in
Yeah, yeah,
historical romance. And if this is the kind of indie publishing she does, I'm definitely gonna have to read more, because Wow.
Yeah, for sure, I'm definitely gonna continue on in this series because I imagine this is setting the tone at least for this series, so I'm definitely gonna be reading more in this series.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for sure, and in fact, I noticed on the poll, for the what to read, not for March because March we're reading fantasy, but for April, it's kinda going for historical again, so I'm gonna look for another spicy
Yeah.
spicy historical, for sure. Okay, so what about oh, you know what? Actually, something I wanted to say about the meddling family. I actually so I did not like them and what they did, but I like the fact that it was kind of like the thing that pushed them for him to follow her to America. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I did like that as an ending and kind of like a resolution as opposed to her having to adapt to his life and, like, having to stay in London and, so I kind of like that she still was able to have the life she wanted to have, and he just had to adjust and, they could find a balance of the 2 things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like them meddling was probably necessary for that to happen, but oh my god, so annoying.
Yeah. Especially that late. Like it felt like everything we were heading to that happily ever after, and then mom and aunt walk in
Yes,
and just
it it was almost like that 3rd act breakup that I just
yeah.
so hate. It was just the
Yeah.
meddling families that caused that 3rd act breakup. Like, "No, what are you doing?"
I will say though, I think after that little kind of third act breakup, I think it got resolved quickly enough
Mhm,
that,
mhm.
it wasn't as frustrating as some third act breakups can be, where
I
it
know,
goes on and on and on before they're back together.
I know, that's true.
But yeah, so it was pretty quick, them
Yeah,
getting back together. So, you know, if
yeah,
if
that
there's
worked.
anything if there's a positive to them meddling, then yeah.
Yeah, I think that would totally work. I think in fact this would be kind of like the historical romance series that I think, I know Bridgerton is really popular and it's on Netflix and all of that, but I think like if they did this kind of historical romance on
Oh, yeah.
Netflix, this would work so much better.
Especially like, I don't know how the rest of the heroines in this series will be, but just the fact that Elizabeth what seemed to be so much more knowledgeable about things that usually the heroine in historical romance doesn't know anything about.
Yeah,
Um, she definitely knew some things that I was surprised that she knew about. So,
yeah,
especially seeing more of that.
yeah, I think that would be totally fun. Yeah. Okay, but we did do 2 books this month. So, Petty Cupid. Let me give you a quick little description of what this book was about, refresher. This is also first book in a series. I should have mentioned that the historical was also the first in a series, so can always be explored more. So Petty Cupid is the heroine is a Cupid, and she's kind of having a moment of being petty, and she tells her ex that she has a date for this big Valentine's Day ball, and of course she doesn't because she didn't really, and let's not say get over the breakup, but she didn't really start dating anybody because it was kind of somewhat recent. And of course the guy she was dating was Eros, like the Cupid. And instead of admitting that she didn't have a date, so she goes on to look for somebody to date or bring a fake date, and it ends up being a Grim Reaper. And of course they go on this kind of like not revenge plot, but in a way, like she just wanted to stick it to her ex and make him jealous. And in the process, of course, she figures out that she kind of likes Mr. Tall, Dark, and Deadly, the Grim Reaper himself. So, what did you think about this one? What were your overall thoughts on Petty Cupid?
I liked the premise, but I don't know if it was because it was a shorter read or a quicker read. But for me, this was more like middle of the road. I could have used a little more plot and character development, I think, to really love this one. This was more like a 3.5 star out of 5 read for me. I think it was a good start, but I think I would have enjoyed it more if there was just more to them. I didn't wholly love the characters like I wanted to, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I can totally see that. I feel like in a lot of ways I felt the same. I think that the premise of the story was really interesting, and I also found it interesting how, um, on the Grim Reaper side, when he's approached by this little Cupid to go on this fake date, it was almost like you could kind of tell that they were kind of isolated, the Grim Reapers, and they were like not, included, or like they felt like, I don't know, like sad, a little bit sad. So I thought that that was cute, but there were so many things that were not fleshed out enough, like his issue with Eros at the end. Like, okay, yeah, he knows him, and there was this history, and like that was not fleshed out enough. Of course, the romance was very insta, little bit too insta lovey, like, for me. And I think that goes a little bit with the fact that it's a novella, so I get that they can't really dive too much into it. But the same like you, I think that there could have been more, especially because this is really fun premise, and I think that
Yeah.
it would be a really cute, either it could even be a series of like all the crazy things that happens between all these immortals. And yeah, I think it just fell a little bit short from that, which was a little bit disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah, I was 100% into the premise. Like I don't think I've ever read a Cupid and Grim Reaper romance. Like I
Yeah,
was all for that. Um but yeah, I just like could have just was looking for a little bit more, I think.
yeah. So there was one scene that kind of bothered me, and that's when he leaves, and of course he can't come back to her world or her plane of existence. So he leaves after they have sex and she's still sleeping, and he thinks that he's just going to like leave her a note. And then of course she wakes up and she thinks that he walked out on her and all this stuff. And so there's like all of this unnecessary drama that comes from that moment, and I'm like, just either talk to each other or like be more clear. Like, it just felt like so stupid because there were already so little words in the book. Like, you're wasting
Mm,
space here.
yeah.
Instead you could have been doing something better, instead of just adding kind of like unnecessary drama.
Yeah, and I think that was, one of their main issues, and I would have liked to see maybe some other kind of issue come up for
Yeah,
them. Um, that could have been maybe done a little bit more in depth, or just to give a little bit more excitement to
yeah.
what was going on, instead of just, oh, I haven't heard from him in a few days, and now I'm upset with him. Like,
Meanwhile, you know that like he can't come back to this realm, so it's not like
yeah,
you haven't heard from him because of a certain reason. Like, he can't come here, so how's he gonna contact you?
yeah,
Yeah, it was. I also would say that it was a 3.5 for me. I think it was a fun premise, but there was a lot of development that I think could have been done better. Overall, though, it was like really fun for what it was. Like, it still gave me the Valentine vibe, and it was a quick read, kind of like a little bit funny. I was expecting it to be a little bit more funny. Also, it was
yeah,
just middle of the road funny.
yeah.
Yeah. So obviously our winner for the book club this month was the historical. What did you end up rating it?
I I believe I did like a 4.5, maybe even a 4.75 for that one, just because I was so pulled in by how quickly we got to the good stuff, I guess, in that one. It stood out so much more to me than a lot of the historical romances I usually read. The more slower burn kind of ones.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I don't know what that says about me, that I loved this one because it wasn't such a slow burn. But yeah, I definitely, it was definitely a higher score from me.
Yeah, yeah. So for me, it was the same. I think I settled on a 4, but it was like a 4/4.5. I really, really liked it. And I'm definitely going to continue on with the series. So I don't know if you're going to pick up the next one.
Definitely, I'm not sure when in my
Yeah.
TBR pile, but I'm definitely it's definitely gonna happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, they're super fast. Like I
Yeah.
blew through that one.
Yeah, I think it was one of those I started at like 10 o'clock at night right before bed and didn't get to sleep until like 2 in the morning, and that got me. I'm not even like a super fast reader, but just that amount of time got me to like 80%.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely a couple hours and you can knock that one out.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And definitely with Petty Cupid was also fast read, but definitely it's more on the actual page count because it was
Yeah.
pretty short. It was definitely pretty short. Now you did say you're going to read the next one in that series also because it's like St. Patty's Day themed.
I might.
You might.
That one might be a if I have time
Yeah.
to get to it between now and St. Patty's Day, I might but I don't think I'll be pushing anything
Yeah.
aside to make room for that one in the list,
Yeah.
but if I have a space that I want to maybe knock another book out like in a day, then
Yeah.
I might. Maybe even next St. Patty's Day. We'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it was
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah. So for that one, I'm really not sure if I'm going to continue on that one, but for sure on the historical, that's a yes. So
Oh yeah, definitely.
yeah, for our March read, which is fantasy, have you read Carissa Broadband before?
I have I read just the first Nyaxia book. So
Mhm.
I'm kind of excited to get back kind of world adjacent to
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Because I did like the characters in the first book. So I'm kind of excited because this one kind of seems like a little bit different in the character development. So I'm gonna be really excited to see how this one differs from that world building and character development compared to
yeah.
where she goes with this one.
Nice, interesting. So I'll be the virgin reading Carissa Broadband. So
I really enjoyed the first Nyaxia book. I can't even tell you why I didn't immediately pick up the second one. Um, Probably just I'll get to that one later. It's on my TBR and just never made it
yeah,
to the top of that list.
yeah,
Because I'm always adding things to that list. But yeah, I'll definitely for sure be getting back to that at some. I'll probably reread the first one at some point and finish up that. I think it's a trilogy,
I
maybe.
think so. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I'll definitely be getting back into that world here, and maybe reading this one in March will kind of push me
Get you
to head back in
excited.
that. Yeah, head back in that direction. But yeah, it was the first one was really good, so I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, no, that's fun. That's fun. And I actually really like how when I found this series, which is the Monsters, something in love with monsters, I don't remember, but it's all different authors. And it was fun because it's like you're getting a taste of their series, but adjacent. So like they work well standalone, but you're still like getting
Yeah,
a nice little teaser. So it's like a perfect little menu. Like
yeah.
you might like these authors. So yeah, I'm excited for that one too. But okay, so I guess it was kind of successful experiment for February because I know you don't read
Mm.
a ton of historical, right?
Yeah, yeah, I have to be in a very specific mood for
Yeah,
historical. Just because it is like a slower burn, and
yeah,
that's usually I have to be in a mood for that.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but now that I know this at least this series from Stacy Reid, I'll definitely be turning to that more frequently because
yeah.
wow,
You have found your little niche of historical
yeah,
that you didn't know
yeah.
existed. Love it. Love it. Yeah. I'm going to definitely have to dig for a good historical for our next pick if it ends up being historical for April. So I do want to remind everybody to go vote. You can vote by going to our Substack, so underthecoverscommunity.com, and just click on the menu where it says book club and you'll find the March announcement. And then on there, you can vote for what genre you want for April. So right now it's historical winning. So but I'll definitely find a spicy one. I'm gonna look through all those reviews and be like, okay, which one? But yeah,
Yeah,
I think
I
it's
don't know if
actually a
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll beat the like 30% mark that this month's book did, but you know,
Yeah,
we'll look for it.
we'll put that to the test. We'll put
Yeah.
that to the test for sure. So I want to remind everybody to go follow Jen also on Substack. Tell us a little bit of what we can find there. What was your, what you've got latest on there?
Mostly my Substack is devoted to book reviews, but I do occasionally pop in with fun things like cover reveals and monthly recaps and what I'm looking forward to coming out the next month. So, but mostly book reviews.
Which is great. You can get lots of good recommendations for what to read. And that is booksgenrex.substack.com. I'll add that in the details of the YouTube video as well. So you can go and follow Jen. And we have to give her a big thank you because she's coming on here in the middle of her workday. So she made some time
Yeah,
to come and chat books here with us. Thank you so much.
yeah, no problem.
All right, guys. We'll see you later.